You think Congress is going to pass that, knowing who they get their money from?
They do whatever he tells them to do.
If President Trump comes in and says to do it, he'll
Okay, so the seat
Bill Maher just destroyed a woke leftist on his own show. The crime? Having dinner with Donald Trump at the White House. When did talking to the other side become treason in America? The left preaches tolerance but can't handle a simple conversation. Today we expose the hypocrisy that's tearing our country apart.
Trump is...
I'm with Trump on this one, yeah. No one likes a low flow shower. That's an 80-20 issue. That's good politics as far as I'm concerned.
And daylight savings time.
Now, that one I like. That one I like it to be light in the evenings.
Yes.
I'm not a morning person. For all the morning people out there, forget you. Okay?
But getting rid of it, don't we have more light in the winter? Yeah. So that's what we want.
No, if we get rid of daylight savings time, it gets dark early.
No. What we do now is when it starts to get dark, we move it the wrong way. And now it's dark at like 4 in the afternoon. It's stupid. That's what he's, I think, trying to get rid of. And the penny.
Yeah. He's right about all these things, I think.
Well, it's just good politics to pick no taxes on tips, all these little things.
Yeah.
That
it's somewhat of a distraction from the ongoing.
And raise taxes on the wealthy. He said it last week.
Is that coming?
It's coming.
But what about the tax cut for the wealthy? Isn't that coming too?
No. It's going to be extended. He's not going to extend the tax cuts for the wealthy. He's going to no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and no tax on overtime.
So you're saying all the donors are about to get a tax hike?
They're already screaming. But he told the Senate that he's open to extending the tax cuts, not extend them.
Open to. So
no. But he's already, I think, and Scott Bessent, the Secretary of Treasury, I think, is working on this. Not to extend it to the upper bracket or make a new bracket.
And you think Congress is going to pass that, knowing who they get their money from?
They do whatever he tells them to do.
If President Trump comes in and says to do it, he'll
Okay, so the Steve Bannon plan is that Republicans are going to abandon the donor class, and then what's going to happen in 2020?
Where else are they going to go? We got total leverage over them. Where else are they going to go?
Well, there's another election coming up.
They're going in the midterms and the thing. But where else are they going to go? If you don't restore the economic viability of the working class and the middle class, and you have to do that by sealing the border, right? So it's not flooded with illegal alien labor. Number 2 is the tariffs to bring manufacturing jobs back. And the third is that working class and middle class people need a tax cut. They need no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and most importantly, no tax on Social Security.
What's going on, Patriots? Bill Maher is finding himself in the crosshairs of his own side for having the audacity to, wait for it, have dinner with former President Donald Trump. Can you believe we've reached this point in America, where simply breaking bread with someone from the other side of the aisle gets you labeled as a traitor? For those who haven't been following, Maher accepted an invitation to dine with Trump at the White House, along with Kid Rock and a few others, and the progressive left has been absolutely melting down over it. The outrage machine kicked into high gear, with blue check Twitter demanding Maher's cancellation and questioning his loyalty to the cause. But here's what's interesting. Instead of bowing down to the mob, Maher stood his ground. He's fighting back and exposing the dangerous intolerance that's become the hallmark of today's radical left. And that's exactly what we need to talk about today.
That's another $500 billion a year we have to come with. That's right. By the way, it's going to be a huge fight. But the Democrats and progressives had control in 2021 in those first 100 days, and they put up taxing the billionaires, and it didn't even get out of committee. President Trump and the MAGA movement will raise taxes on the wealthy.
All right, let me ask him another
do you believe that when the tariffs cause huge inflation, that the lower middle class are going to reward the Republicans for that when all the prices go up? Because in 1890, when we had tariffs, the Republicans lost the House and the presidency because the price.
You should know this, Josh, better than anybody, because when we raised the tariffs on China in 18, prices came down. We didn't have any inflation in 19, and we had the highest tariffs we ever put on China.
Hey, how about that dire wolf? We brought back the direwolf. They brought back a species.
Let's set the scene here. Bill Maher, a guy who's built his career on being a provocative, free-thinking liberal, decides to accept an invitation to the White House from President Trump. The horror, the absolute scandal. You'd think he'd committed treason based on the reaction. But what was the real crime here? Having a conversation with someone you might disagree with. Since when did that become taboo in America? I'll tell you when. It's when the radical left decided that ideological purity was more important than the basic foundations of a functioning democracy. This is exactly the kind of behavior that's tearing our country apart. The left constantly preaches about tolerance and understanding, but the moment one of their own steps out of line and engages with the other side, they turn into a vicious mob. They're the ones telling you to disown family members who voted Republican. They're the ones who want you to skip Thanksgiving dinner if your uncle supports Trump. They're the ones who've reduced our political discourse to, if you're not with us 100%, you're against us. And let's be crystal clear, Bill Maher is no conservative. He's criticized Trump extensively over the years, but he understands something fundamental that many on the left have forgotten. Democracy requires dialogue. It requires engagement. It requires the ability to sit across the table from someone you disagree with and still recognize their humanity. The reaction to Maher's dinner shows just how far the progressive left has fallen from the liberal values. They claim to champion free thought, gone, open dialogue, forbidden intellectual curiosity, only if it leads to pre-approved conclusions. What I find refreshing about this whole situation is Maher's refusal to back down. In recent episodes of his show, he's been absolutely unloading on the critics who've come after him. And boy, does it make for some compelling television. There's one particular exchange with a guest. I believe his name is Josh Rogan, where Maher is noticeably irritated. You can see it in his body language, hear it in his tone. This isn't the usual lighthearted banter we're accustomed to seeing on his show. This is a man who's genuinely fed up with the intellectual straitjacket that today's left wants to put on everyone. And can you blame him? Maher has been in the business for decades. He's interviewed people across the political spectrum. He's had conversations with those he agrees with and those he vehemently opposes. That's what made his show worth watching. The clash of ideas, the unexpected moments of agreement, the genuine intellectual exploration. But now he's discovering what conservatives have known for years. The modern left doesn't want dialogue. They want compliance. They want obedience. They want you to stick to the script. What's happening to Maher isn't just about a dinner. It's about the left's increasing hostility toward free thought. It's about their growing intolerance for anyone who dares to color outside the lines they've drawn. It's about the rigid ideological conformity that's poisoning our political discourse. And it's why so many longtime liberals are finding themselves politically homeless. The progressive left has moved so far in one direction, embracing such extreme positions and policing speech with such ferocity that reasonable liberals like Maher are being pushed away.
Was extinct. Using DNA they had in a fossil.
What could go wrong?
I mean, it's just... I don't know. I mean, I
yeah,
can't...
they're going to do the woolly mammoth next, you know. I think they made a movie about this.
Don't knock it until they, in 100 years, they bring back Bill Maher from a fossil.
Yeah.
Look how great that
would be. They made a movie once about, you know, bringing back extinct species and the risk of it. It was called Jurassic Park. Maybe you've all seen it, you know.
I know, but
so maybe we shouldn't screw with science.
This whole fiasco highlights a deeper issue in American society today. We've forgotten how to talk to each other. We've forgotten that political disagreement doesn't have to mean personal animosity. We've forgotten that you can break bread with someone, listen to their perspective, and still maintain your own views. The woke left's reaction to Maher's dinner with Trump exemplifies everything that's wrong with our current political climate. It's a microcosm of the cancel culture that's infected our discourse and the tribal mentality that's replaced genuine engagement. Think about this. In what healthy democracy is it considered scandalous for a political commentator to have dinner with a former president? In what functional society is simple dialogue across party lines seen as betrayal? We used to celebrate figures who could bridge divides. We used to respect people who could maintain friendly relationships despite political differences. Think of the famous friendship between Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia. Two Supreme Court justices with fundamentally different judicial philosophies who still maintain deep mutual respect and genuine friendship. But today's radical progressives don't want bridges. They want walls. They want clear lines between us and them. They want to know exactly who's pure enough to be included in their circle and who deserves to be cast out. It's not just unhealthy for our democracy. It's fundamentally un-American. America was built on the idea that we could come together despite our differences. The entire concept of e pluribus unum, out of many one, is about unity despite diversity. Not forced uniformity of thought, but a recognition that our differences don't have to divide us. Bill Maher seems to understand this in a way that many of his progressive critics don't. And that's why they're so angry with him. Because in having dinner with Trump, he's reminding them of a value they've abandoned, the hypocrisy factor. 5 minutes. Let's talk about the glaring hypocrisy here. The same crowd that's lambasting Bill Maher for having dinner with Trump constantly preaches about the need for dialogue and understanding. They're the first ones to lecture about bridge building and the dangers of political polarization. But it seems those principles only apply when it's convenient for their narrative. When it's about reaching out to groups they want to court, dialogue is essential. When it's about understanding perspectives they want to highlight, empathy is crucial. But when one of their own dares to extend that same courtesy to the other side, suddenly dialogue becomes dangerous. Suddenly understanding becomes betrayal. It's classic rules for thee but not for me behavior. And it's exactly why so many Americans are growing tired of the progressive left's moral grandstanding. Ask yourself this. If a conservative commentator had dinner with a Democratic president and then got attacked by their own side, wouldn't the left be the first to condemn such intolerance? Wouldn't they be writing think pieces about the dangers of ideological purity tests and the importance of cross-partisan dialogue? Of course they would. But when the shoe is on the other foot, those principles go right out the window. Because for too many on the progressive left, principles aren't guiding stars. They're tools to be picked up or discarded depending on political expediency. And that's what makes Bill Maher's stand so important. He's not just defending his right to have dinner with whoever he chooses. He's defending principles that used to be considered fundamental to liberal thought, free exchange of ideas, intellectual curiosity, and the belief that engagement is better than isolation. So where do we go from here? How do we rebuild the bridges that have been burned by years of increasing polarization and ideological intolerance? I think Bill Maher's example offers us a roadmap. It starts with having the courage to engage despite the potential backlash. It means being willing to listen to perspectives that differ from your own. Not because you're going to agree with them, but because understanding is the first step toward finding common ground. For too long, we've allowed the most extreme voices on both sides to dictate the terms of our national conversation. We've let the algorithmic outrage machines of social media push us further into our respective corners. We've forgotten that most Americans aren't radical progressives or hardcore MAGA. They're somewhere in the middle, concerned about kitchen table issues and looking for solutions, not ideology. Bill Maher's willingness to sit down with Trump to engage directly rather than simply throw stones from afar should be commended, not condemned. It represents the kind of approach we desperately need more of in our public discourse. And let me be clear about something. Supporting dialogue doesn't mean abandoning your principles. It doesn't mean you can't vigorously oppose policies or ideas you find harmful. But it does mean recognizing that dehumanizing those you disagree with only makes our problems worse, not better. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. The reaction to Bill Maher's dinner with Trump isn't just about one comedian or one former president. It's about a fundamental question facing our country. Can we talk to each other again? Can we rebuild a capacity for civil dialogue that once defined American discourse? Can we remember that political opponents aren't enemies but fellow citizens with different views? Can we recognize that the path to a better America runs through understanding, not isolation? I believe we can. But it's going to take courage. It's going to take people willing to buck the trend of tribalism and reach across divides. It's going to take more Bill Mahers, people willing to say, I don't care what the mob thinks. I'm going to engage directly and make up my own mind. That's the America I want to live in. Not one where dinner invitations become litmus tests for ideological purity, but one where we can disagree passionately while still recognizing our shared humanity. Thank you for joining me today on the Black Coffee Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next brew. And as always, keep fighting for truth, liberty, and the American way. Until next time, this is your host signing off. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on this whole Bill Maher situation. Do you think he was right to have dinner with Trump? Are you seeing this kind of ideological policing in your own life? Share your experiences. And if you found value in today's discussion, please consider supporting the show. Join our Patreon membership for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes access, and community discussions where we can speak freely without the censorship of big tech. Remember, Patriots, in a world full of watered-down opinions and political correctness, we're serving it black. No sugar, no cream, just the truth. See you in the next episode.